Welcome to Prismology. Have you ever felt it? That quiet shift in the air when the woman you love walks into the room and something inside you tightens. Even though you can't explain why, you can't prove anything, you don't have evidence, but your nervous system knows, and it won't let you rest. Before we go any deeper, subscribe and like this video. Not because I need the number, but because you need the truth. And the algorithm only pushes truth when men decide it matters. I'm speaking to you not as an enemy of women. I am a female psychologist. I understand how women think, how we justify, how we compartmentalize, how we protect our self-image at all costs. And what I'm about to share with you isn't about paranoia. It's about patterns. If your wife is hiding guilt after betraying your trust, she will rarely confess immediately. Not because she feels nothing, but because guilt and self-preservation are powerful forces inside the human mind, especially in someone who still wants the stability of the relationship. You see, guilt doesn't always look like tears. It doesn't always look like apologies. Often, it looks like subtle behavioral shifts, a new tone, a strange defensiveness, a distance that feels almost strategic. Men are often told they're overthinking, that they're insecure, that they're imagining things. But here's what most people won't tell you. Your intuition is pattern recognition. Your brain is picking up micro changes in behavior long before your conscious mind can articulate them. When a wife carries hidden guilt after crossing a boundary, she enters a psychological split. On one side, she wants to maintain the life she built. On the other, she carries the weight of what she's done. That internal conflict leaks. It has to. And if you've been feeling confused, emotionally off balance, or like you're slowly losing your footing in your own home, it's not weakness. It's cognitive dissonance. Your reality doesn't match the emotional signals you're receiving. Some men react with anger. Others with denial. Some double down on being nicer, hoping it restores closeness. But before you react, you need awareness. Calm awareness. This isn't about turning you into a suspicious, bitter man. It's about helping you see clearly so you can respond with strength instead of desperation. Because here's the brutal truth. Hidden guilt changes behavior in predictable ways. Not dramatically, not theatrically, but subtly, consistently. And when you understand those patterns, you stop chasing reassurance. You stop begging for validation. You stop questioning your sanity. Instead, you observe. You detach emotionally just enough to see the truth without panic. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through the first sign. And I want you to listen not just with your ears, but with your lived experience. Think about the last 3 months. The tone shifts, the unexplained irritability, the strange new habits. This isn't about accusation. It's about clarity. Because a man who sees clearly cannot be manipulated. And a man who understands psychology becomes emotionally dangerous. Not to harm, but to protect himself. The first hidden sign is sudden, disproportionate defensiveness, especially over small, ordinary questions. I want you to think carefully, not about the big confrontations, not about dramatic arguments. I'm talking about simple, neutral moments. You ask, "Hey, what time did you get home?" And the response feels charged, sharp, guarded, almost preloaded. When guilt is present, the mind becomes hyper-alert. A woman hiding betrayal is not just responding to your words, she's reacting to the threat of exposure. Even if your question is innocent, her nervous system hears accusation. And here's the key difference. Defensiveness rooted in stress sounds different from defensiveness rooted in guilt. Stress sounds tired. Guilt sounds aggressive. You may notice she answers questions with questions. Why are you asking? Don't you trust me? Are you tracking my every move? Now that escalation is psychological displacement. Instead of sitting with her internal discomfort, she shifts the spotlight onto you. Now you're the suspicious one. You're the insecure one. The conversation flips. This is not random. When someone feels guilty, they experience what psychologists call threat to self-concept. Most women see themselves as loyal, nurturing, emotionally intelligent. If they've acted outside that identity, it creates internal tension. To relieve that tension, they protect their self-image, and that often means reframing you as the problem. So, your calm curiosity gets interpreted as interrogation, and you start walking on eggshells. You begin editing your questions to avoid triggering conflict. You hesitate before bringing up normal relationship topics. You start doubting whether you're too much. That shift in dynamic is critical. A healthy partner may get annoyed sometimes, but they don't consistently treat neutral inquiries like cross-examination. They don't react like every conversation is a courtroom. Hidden guilt produces hypervigilance. She listens between your words. She studies your tone. She scans your face for suspicion. And that constant internal scanning makes her more irritable than usual. You may also notice she over-explains minor details without being asked. That's another tell. When someone feels guilty, they try to control the narrative preemptively. Extra details, elaborate timelines, information you didn't request. It's like she's building an alibi before a crime is even mentioned. And here's what makes this emotionally confusing for you. The defensiveness can come mixed with affection. One moment she's tense, the next she's overly warm. That inconsistency keeps you off balance. But I want you to understand something important. Guilt is heavy. It leaks through tone long before it leaks through confession. If her reactions feel exaggerated compared to the situation, don't ignore that pattern. Patterns matter more than isolated moments. You are not looking for proof. You are looking for behavioral shifts that didn't exist before. Has she become quicker to anger when transparency would normally be simple? Does she seem ready for a fight when you're simply asking for clarity? When a woman is hiding guilt, she doesn't fear your anger as much as she fears your certainty. And the more certain you become, the more emotionally reactive she may appear. Observe without reacting. That is your power. Because a man who stays calm while noticing everything is impossible to gaslight. And this is only the beginning. The second hidden sign is a sudden shift in affection. Either a dramatic increase or a quiet withdrawal. Guilt distorts intimacy. If your wife has crossed a boundary and is carrying it alone, her relationship to physical and emotional closeness will change. It has to, because intimacy now activates comparison, memory, and internal conflict. Let's start with the increase. Some women respond to hidden guilt by overcompensating. More compliments, more physical touch, more sexual initiation than usual. It can feel exciting at first. You might think things are finally improving, but pay attention to the energy behind it. Is it warm and connected, or urgent and performative? Guilt-driven affection often feels like someone trying to erase something. It's intense, but slightly disconnected. She may initiate more frequently, but avoid deeper eye contact. She may become adventurous in ways that feel uncharacteristic, not because growth is impossible, but because guilt sometimes pushes people to rebalance the scales. It's unconscious compensation. On the other hand, some women pull away. If being close reminds her of what she's hiding, distance becomes safer. You may notice she turns her body away in bed. She scrolls longer at night. Conversations become shorter. Physical affection becomes mechanical or infrequent. And here's the psychological core. When someone feels guilty, they often struggle with cognitive dissonance during intimacy. The mind is trying to reconcile two conflicting realities, the relationship in front of them and the secret behind it. That internal friction makes authentic closeness harder. If she withdraws, she may justify it with stress, work pressure, fatigue, or needing space. And sometimes those reasons are valid, but you are not evaluating words. You are evaluating patterns. Ask yourself, did this shift happen suddenly? Was there a clear external trigger, or did the change feel abrupt and unexplained? Men often ignore this sign because they don't want to appear needy. You don't want to demand affection. You don't want to overanalyze, but intimacy patterns in long-term relationships are relatively stable. When they change drastically without mutual discussion, something is influencing that shift. Now, here's something few people say out loud. Guilt can also create a strange mixture of both behaviors. Intense closeness followed by emotional coldness. Passionate one week, distant the next. That emotional whiplash is internal conflict playing out externally. And when you feel confused by it, that's not weakness. That's your nervous system trying to stabilize inconsistent signals. You may start working harder to earn the warmth back. You may start blaming yourself for the distance. You may think, maybe I've been distracted. Maybe I need to improve. Self-improvement is powerful, but it should come from growth, not from scrambling to fix a dynamic you didn't create. A woman hiding guilt often struggles to maintain steady emotional presence. She's managing two realities. Watch for shifts in how she engages physically and emotionally. Not one isolated night, not one stressful week, but consistent deviation from your established baseline. Closeness should feel mutual, not strategic. And when affection begins to feel like either a shield or a performance, pay attention, because guilt doesn't just change how someone speaks, it changes how they touch. The third hidden sign is a sudden obsession with privacy. Not healthy boundaries, but strategic secrecy. There is a difference. Every adult deserves personal space, but when guilt enters the equation, privacy becomes defensive architecture. It's no longer about independence, it's about containment. You may notice small shifts first. Her phone is suddenly face down. Always. Notifications are silenced in new ways. She steps into another room to take calls she used to answer beside you. Passwords change without explanation. Devices that were once casually accessible become guarded territory. And when you notice it, she downplays it. Everyone deserves privacy. You're being paranoid. Why are you checking up on me? Notice the framing. Instead of calmly addressing the change, the conversation turns into a character judgment of you. This is a common psychological redirection tactic. It moves the spotlight away from behavior and onto your perceived insecurity. But here's what I want you to understand. Secrecy has an emotional signature. It carries tension. If someone is simply setting healthy boundaries, they don't react with anxiety when you're near their phone. They don't physically reposition the screen when you walk into the room. They don't flinch at a notification sound. Guilt creates hyper-awareness of exposure risk. You may also see changes in digital behavior, increased time online at odd hours, more frequent device checking, unusual protectiveness over social media interactions. Now, this is important. Do not jump to conclusions based on one behavior. Technology habits evolve, but patterns matter. If privacy increases alongside defensiveness and intimacy shifts, you're not looking at coincidence. You're looking at convergence. And here's where many men make a mistake. They confront emotionally instead of strategically. They demand access, they argue, they escalate. But a person hiding guilt is already prepared for confrontation. Emotion fuels their defense system. Calm observation disarms it. When you react explosively, the narrative becomes about your anger. When you stay composed, the focus remains on the behavior. You are not trying to catch someone in a dramatic moment. You are trying to assess consistency. Has her relationship with transparency changed? Does she seem more concerned about protecting information than protecting connection? Because in healthy relationships, transparency builds safety. In guilt-driven situations, secrecy builds safety for the person hiding something. And there's another subtle layer. If she senses your suspicion, she may become temporarily more open to disarm you, handing you her phone casually, oversharing small details. But watch for timing. Is the openness reactive to your tension, or is it consistent regardless of your mood? Guilt-driven transparency is often performative and short-lived. Real transparency feels steady. I want you to sit with this carefully. Are you feeling more like an outsider in your own home? Like there are digital spaces you're no longer invited into? That feeling matters not because you need control, but because emotional security depends on mutual openness. And when privacy turns into guarded secrecy, it's rarely random. It's protective. The question is, what is being protected? Stay steady. You're not here to accuse. You're here to see. The fourth, hidden sign is projection, when her guilt starts accusing you. This one is psychologically powerful, and if you don't understand it, it can completely destabilize you. Projection happens when someone unconsciously attributes their own behavior, impulses, or fears onto another person. It's a defense mechanism, and when guilt is involved, it becomes sharper. You may notice she starts questioning your loyalty out of nowhere. Who are you texting? You've been distant lately. Is there someone else? And the accusations feel misaligned with reality. You haven't changed. You haven't hidden anything. But suddenly you're being examined. Why? Because when someone carries hidden betrayal, their brain becomes hyper-aware of the possibility of betrayal everywhere. It's a psychological mirror. If they were capable of crossing a line, it becomes easier emotionally to imagine you doing the same. This serves two purposes. First, it reduces internal guilt. If she can convince herself that you're flawed too, the moral imbalance feels smaller. Second, it gives her emotional leverage. If you're on defense, you're not investigating. If you're busy proving your innocence, you're not calmly observing her shifts. Projection creates chaos. You might find yourself explaining harmless interactions, justifying normal behaviors, reassuring her repeatedly. And here's the trap. The more you defend, the more suspicious you appear in her narrative. Because projection isn't about logic, it's about emotional relief. You may also notice subtle character critiques. You're not as attentive as you used to be. You don't communicate. You've changed. These statements may have partial truth. No one is perfect, but the timing matters. Did these critiques surface after her behavior shifted? Did dissatisfaction appear suddenly without prior discussion? Guilt often rewrites relationship history. The mind searches for reasons to justify behavior retroactively. Maybe I felt neglected. Maybe we weren't connected. These thoughts help protect self-image. But instead of processing those internally, projection externalizes them. You become the explanation. And I want you to hear this clearly. Self-reflection is healthy. Blindly absorbing misplaced blame is not. If you've genuinely been distant, own it. Grow from it. But if the accusations feel like they're emerging without foundation, don't internalize them automatically. Calmly ask for specifics. Not emotionally, not defensively, just calmly. What makes you feel that way? Projection struggles under calm inquiry because it relies on emotional escalation to survive. You may notice that when you don't react strongly, the accusations lose intensity or they morph into something else. That's data. And here's the deeper psychological truth. When someone feels guilty, they are living in fear of being exposed. That fear makes them scan for threat constantly. Sometimes they create threat to feel more in control. If you're constantly being accused while sensing something is off on her side, pause. You are not crazy. You are not automatically the villain. You are observing a defense mechanism that has existed in human psychology for centuries. And the strongest move you can make isn't to shout. It's to stay grounded while everything tries to pull you off balance. Because projection only works when you accept the false narrative without question. And you don't have to. The fifth hidden sign is emotional inconsistency. A subtle instability in her energy that wasn't there before. Guilt is heavy, and carrying something heavy without speaking about it fractures emotional rhythm. You may notice her mood fluctuates in ways that don't match circumstances. One day she's unusually patient, soft, almost reflective. The next day she's irritable over something minor, withdrawn, cold. And when you try to understand it, the explanations feel thin, just tired, work stress. You're overthinking. Stress is real. Life is demanding. But consistent emotional unpredictability, especially following other behavioral shifts, signals internal conflict. When someone is hiding something significant, they are running parallel emotional processes. The outer life, daily routines, shared responsibilities, conversations, and the inner life, secrecy, rationalization, fear of discovery. That dual existence drains emotional bandwidth. You might feel like you're interacting with two versions of the same person. The loving partner you know and a distant, distracted presence that feels partially elsewhere. Here's something subtle but powerful. Watch for micro-expressions when certain topics arise. Mention of loyalty, a show involving betrayal, a casual comment about honesty. Does she tense slightly? Change the subject quickly? Unusually opinionated. Guilt sharpens sensitivity to related themes. You may also notice increased efforts to appear morally upright in conversation, strong condemnations of cheating in others, firm declarations about loyalty. Sometimes this is genuine conviction. Sometimes it's psychological overcorrection. When people feel misaligned internally, they often reinforce the opposite externally. And this emotional inconsistency doesn't just confuse you, it destabilizes you. You start wondering which version is real. You may blame yourself for not being steady enough to hold the relationship together. But understand this, you cannot stabilize someone who is internally divided. Now I want to shift something important in you. This video is not about turning you into a detective. It's about turning you into a grounded observer. If multiple signs are present, defensiveness, intimacy shifts, secrecy, projection, emotional inconsistency, your job is not to panic. Your job is to reclaim emotional center. Do not beg for reassurance. Do not threaten. Do not collapse into self-doubt. Strength in this situation is calm clarity. Have direct conversations without accusation. State observations, not assumptions. I've noticed some changes lately. I want to understand what's going on. Silence after that is powerful. If there is nothing to hide, clarity comes with time and consistency. If there is hidden guilt, pressure reveals cracks. Not because you attack, but because truth resists being contained forever. And here is the final truth most men are never told. Your value does not decrease because someone chose poorly. If betrayal occurred, it reflects their boundaries, not your worth. Do not let suspicion consume you. Let awareness sharpen you. If this resonated deeply, subscribe to Prismology and stay connected, because clarity is power, and a man who understands emotional psychology walks through life with quiet strength. You deserve loyalty. You deserve transparency. And above all, you deserve peace in your own home. Never forget.